What's so interesting is about the human in the loop, the oversight, the control. How do they maintain that when you're leaving AI agents to go and do work for multi-step processes?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here also for Legal Week, which has basically all of the legal tech industry in New York for one gathering. The way that we think about it is, in law, it's incredibly complex and it's multiplayer. And so if you're building this agentic system that is kind of the infrastructure for completing legal work, you need it to be able to actually interact with all of the different specialized agents to do that task, the multiple law firms working on a project, and the Fortune 500 that is thinking about buying another company or involved in a litigation or something like that. And so it's a really complex process of integrating with all the correct data, having the humans in the loop when they need to be, and handing off between the different experts that are specialists in that particular domain.
Let's talk about your specialization and the fact that you have all these integrations and have such a wide scope of legal companies you're already working with. Because look, the age-old criticism is you're just a wrapper of GPT, or whether it's Anthropic, you're agnostic to the models underlying. How are you making yourself so necessary for the legal profession?
Yeah, the best way to think about this is in these incredibly highly regulated industries, the work that they have to do is very complex, and all of the data is in all these different silos, right? And again, it's multi-party and collaborative. And so what you need to solve is, which model is the best for this particular part of a task? How do you route that to the human? And then what's going to become really important is, how do you actually review all those outputs and evaluate them for accuracy? If you think about what's going to happen in the next 10 years, think about how complex an international merger is going to be, right? Now that we're using AI to produce more products, to produce more MSAs, more contracts, et cetera, reviewing those, honestly, in 10 years, I think you can't do it. A human cannot do this without AI systems that can integrate with everything else.
Winston, I want to hold you to this to be succinct. This is a tool that makes a practicing lawyer more productive and better at their job, or it is a tool that in the future displaces the role or function of certain team members within a legal practice?
Yeah, the best way to think about this is task automation, and I think it will always be task automation, right? So if you think about like a very complex fund formation that involves 50 LPs or something like that, there are certain tasks like doing comment memos or something like that that are going to get automated away. But a lot of the high value is that strategic advice on top of those tasks, right? And so as these tasks get automated, the job of a lawyer is just going to level up over time.
I ask you that because one of the show's biggest fans, my father, is almost certainly watching, who has more than 3 decades of practice in English and European law. And I remember as a kid, the whole billable hours thing, right? You know, lawyers across the world used to scan barcodes for 15 minutes of work.
Yeah.
Really interested, therefore, for how you price this. You know, I think you guys run a subscription-based model, right, which can also be priced depending on the volume of use of any customer. But that's the debate. Where's the value?
Yeah, exactly. So right now, that is how we do all of our pricing. Over time, what we're starting to do a lot more of is, how do you do custom build for a lot of different customers? And the reality is, doing these custom builds, these forward deployed solutions, is, with how good the coding models are getting, a lot stronger gross margins, right? And so a lot of what we're starting to do is, we'll work with like a large bank or private equity or telco and a law firm that's partnered with them, and we'll actually redesign or transform how they deliver those services entirely, right? And that we are going to price much differently, and probably closer to, how do the outcomes work and how does consumption on top of that work?
You've got some heavyweight investors, Sequoia, KP, A16Z, GV, the list goes on. They want to hear about how you're able to monetize this. When someone is sat within the innovation part of the legal business, and they're like, do I do a Claude plugin? Do I do Harvey? Do I keep with LexisNexis? What's your answer?
Yeah, the best way to think about this is, everything else out there is a point solution. And what we're building is a platform, right? And with that platform, you have all of the integrations, you have security, you respect ethical walls, permissions. We grab the correct data, so we ground it in truthful data instead of bad data that is going to give you a bad answer. And as this scales over time, you really just have to outrun these model providers that are trying to build the general system, right? And the bet that I have, and I'm very confident in my team's ability to deliver on this, is we can race faster in the legal vertical than they can generally.